Hello, my name is Randolph Johnson and we're doing another video. This time I'm with David Gozali of ATRAM Trust and he's going to talk to you about something that I think, kumbaga ngayon, napapanahon na people need to talk about this because it's something that we are really excited about and it's really talking about the future. So David, welcome to our YouTube channel and could you say a little bit what you do with ATRAM?
Hi Randall, thank you for inviting me. Really excited to talk about global tech. Well, I'm part of ATRAM Trust and I work in the investments team. So in the investments team, I work with a multi-asset arm, which means we look both at local and global and fixed income and equities, or for more commonly known as bonds and stocks. However, we understand that when we invest abroad, we do not necessarily have the best capabilities because we don't have the exposure or the AUM that other people do. So what we do is we partner with a lot of fund houses abroad, JP Morgan, Fidelity, Templeton, and through the partnership, we provide access to really good funds abroad.
Okay. So basically, you're in charge of the more foreign funds type, outside the Philippines type of an investment.
Yes.
And then, okay, so which is kind of good, so that finally we get access to these things. Because a lot of Filipinos think that they need to open an account in Hong Kong or Singapore just to buy funds, but they can actually do it. No? Just curious, how many funds does ATRAM have? I mean, I know you have a lot, no? Can you count how many?
I think we have actually, over 21, maybe 22 funds.
21. And of the 21, how many funds are you involved with?
I probably look at maybe about 10 of the feeder funds.
Wow. Okay. Again, some funds are really huge, some are just starting. So, and that's cool because I think it's really important for us to have, more access to these things. So finally, like we're saying, we talk about tech, guys. About tech, investing in tech, and many years ago, you would think that I need to go abroad to be able to buy these things or open an account for a US equity, and it's never an easy thing to be able to do. And just to for those things, David is part of ATRAM, okay? And ATRAM is one of those very unique fund houses because they carry both mutual funds and UITFs, both of them. So galing lang. Okay, so David. Let's talk about tech fund. Let's talk about tech, for instance. When I say I want to invest in tech, that doesn't mean I'll buy Google or gano. Well, how do you define what investing in tech means?
Well, Randall, actually, tech is a very broad thing. And if you don't mind, I'd love to share my screen.
Oh, please.
But before I get to that, I just want to... Oh, Randall, I think you disabled my screen sharing.
Okay. I'll have to... Tama. Sorry about this. I'll have to... Okay, now you can do it. Because of this, even Zoom became a little bit more.
Oh, yes.
Okay. So, yan.
Yeah. But, I think as you mentioned, Randall, before the pandemic, I think a lot of people would do things in the physical world. Mm-hmm. But as you mentioned, with Zoom and the work from home protocol, I think global tech's adoption has been accelerated. In other words, I think more and more people have been using tech. And I think this trend is here to stay. But I think before I get into global tech, I actually want to talk about the big industry as a whole. Let's start from the top. And if you look 10 years before, the top 10 biggest companies would actually be energy firms. You have, Exxon, Shell, Petrobras, and all that. Fast forward to 10 years today, we see that, as you can see in the blue, the top 6 are actually tech companies. And the top 7 are tech companies. And a lot of that is really because of the disruption we're facing. Right? And if you notice, the disruption isn't just everywhere. I mean, it's not just in the big company firms we're not familiar with, but even in our daily lives, technology has really changed. So, I'd actually have bonding times with my parents before, and we'd listen to CDs, sometimes, even the vinyls or those big black CDs. But, if you look at it right now, people listen to music using Spotify. I mean, it's literally on my phone. And then sometimes, if I want to read something, before, my parents, they'd pick up a newspaper, they'd pick up a book. But now, also on my phone, I can now read online. And then if you look at it also in retail, we used to shop in malls, we used to go to the mall. And, nowadays, I'm pretty sure everyone has been doing it. We shop online. Shopee, you have Lazada, and you even pay online too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
the options are more now. The payment options, I remember when they starting PayPal lang, and now
yeah.
When can be done. And I guess you're right, no, with the pandemic, with the closing down of the economy, I think you accelerated the tech maybe by, I'd say 5 years, no, or even longer.
Yeah, that's true.
Like everybody had to shift to online banking. That was like the first thing. People who don't, you should be surprised. Even younger people don't like to do online banking. You know, security and stuff like that, or they just stay too lazy. But now, parang, you know, because I'm in my 50s now, so even my older siblings have shifted to online banking.
Online banking.
COVID, they would have done, and you know, and stuff like that. So again, I think one of the biggest winners is e-commerce.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. And e-commerce is part of technology. And even transport, you know, like before, you know, in transport random, you'd have to drive your car, commute in the taxi, etc., etc. But now, parang before this Uber, man, Grab, Angkas. I mean, for me, even the way you move around is really being disrupted by tech.
And I guess, David, also the new normal, the work from home, relies a lot on tech more and more.
Yes, that's true.
Like we're doing Zoom right now. I mean, 2 years ago, we would not do the Zoom, diba? I mean,
that's true.
Just probably meet somewhere else, talk about it, and you know, have a team crew. And now we're doing this. We've done our board meetings via Zoom. Medyo weird, but
wow,
not board meetings. And I think I'm involved with some of the funds of ATRAM. We're going to do our first annual stockholders.
Wow! Wow, that's so cool, Randall.
We'll see, but it's happening. No, it's happening right now. I like it. It's everything that we do. No, it's just not the traditional stuff. It's
And I think you're right. So what exactly is global technology? And you know, to be honest, before I really entered ATRAM, I didn't know what it was. But I'd love to share what it is right now. Okay. And I want to actually explain both what is global and what is technology. Okay. And I think the best example is really through, you know, an example with my phone. So, you know, if I do have my phone here, there's so many parts that go into this phone. It starts out with the chip. Let's start with the chip. Not in potato chips, but like, you know, the microchip, right? And the microchip is actually designed by a company in the UK. It's called ARM. Yeah. And after they design it, they then manufacture it. So they move into Netherlands under a company ASML. And then now that they have the tools to make the chip, they then move to Taiwan or TSMC. And they manufacture the chip there, which then goes into my phone or to your laptop. Okay. And the laptop is assembled in Korea. And then after that, it is shipped using a distribution company like Amazon in the US. And me, for example, if I want to buy a phone, I'll access that by using an online website. And if I have someone in China, I'd use Baidu, which is in China. And then I'll pay using, as you said, PayPal or maybe you know, my BDO online banking. And that's whether in the US or in the Philippines, it's a payment system. And so what I want to highlight is two things. You know, when you look at technology, you have to look at it as the whole world. Okay. Because nowadays, products are created from the whole world. And to gain exposure to all the growth, you have to be able to look to the whole world. And I also want to highlight that, you know, technology is a lot bigger than just a phone or a laptop or let's say Shopee or Amazon. It's actually a whole spectrum. And it's important for you to understand that you have to look at where it starts until where it ends and hopefully find the best opportunities throughout that whole subspectrum to be able to bring most value to, you know, the investors like you and me.
Yeah. And David, the scale has also drastically grown by leaps and bounds. I mean, like the scale of things that what they're doing right now. I was in the US last year and I got to visit Barnes and Noble.
Wow. That's a throwback to before, yeah.
Lang tao and stuff like that. Once, no? At least for nostalgia reasons, because I did part of my schooling in the States, I went to JC Penn and stuff. Nothing's there.
Nothing. Yeah.
It's like a ghost town, you know. Yeah. I could have probably picked up an item and got out of the building.
No one noticing.
The scale of these things are unbelievable, no? Like, I think what a lot of people need to understand, when you look at the phone, like, I'm using an iPhone. I think there are like 7 or 8 countries involved in the iPhone alone, just in materials alone. So,
yes.
Then, you know, then you globally distribute it. That's crazy. So this is, and everything, and all of these things are happening because of technology also, or technology enables them. So global trade, in a sense, is codependent with technology.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. And then Randall, I think for me, people usually ask, did I miss out on tech then? Wow, tech is so interesting, but I want to invest in tech. But then, am I too late? I think that's a big question. And well, I think there are some things I want to highlight, right? If you look at tech, comparing it to the broad market, so in other words, specifically technology versus, well, whether you look at it from a long-term horizon, such as in my left chart, 5 years, or short-term horizon, such as just a few months on my right chart, technology continues to outperform significantly. And I think a lot of people ask, tech has really risen so much. Mahal na ba ngayon mag-tech?
Or bubble na ba?
Yeah, exactly. But you know,
you're too young to remember the tech bubble during art.
I was maybe 5 years old pa lang ata.
People are afraid of that tech bubble. No? So
yeah, that's true.
Nasdaq thing. Wow. So
yeah,
wow,
it rose
almost
fast.
20 years ago. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, wow.
20 years now, yeah.
Yeah, today.
But I think back then compared to now is quite different. I think back then a lot of people were really just pouring money into anything tech. I think now, although people are investing into tech, I think people are a lot more careful because, as you said, a lot of the investors know what happened in the year 2000.
And I guess the big difference is now is mass adoption.
That's true.
It was more of a novelty.
Yes, it's true. That's
what happened, but now it's alive. No, parang.
That's true.
Imagine, David. Imagine do not use technology for a full day, or tutulan kita ng Wi-Fi or.
Ako, Randall. Mahirap. I'll be honest. I can't live without technology. I mean, I wake up with an alarm from my phone. I check my Instagram, my Facebook. I do my work online. Syempre, between 8:30 to 6:30, work lang.
Technology is not limited to the young people. That's something.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, actually, my dad and my mom, they're doctors. They hold telemedicine online also. As in, also using Zoom.
Yeah.
It disrupts every industry. Ang galing.
So you're saying, David, while we have grown substantially, we have not hit the point na bubble na siya. It's the end na.
No. Actually, my next slide, I think, can be helpful. So my next slide refers to valuations. In other words, comparing the price to other prices, to keep it simple. So on the left-hand side, it compares the tech sector, comparing it to its historical background. So for me, I'd always, when I talk to my sister or my brother who aren't as, into the financial industry as we are, I always go, well, imagine orange juice. Orange juice. Yung orange juice today compared to 10 years ago, is it more expensive or less expensive? So for the value of me drinking my orange juice, has it become a lot more expensive to pay or cheaper to pay? And that's what my left chart is about. Right? If you compare the price of orange juice or the price of technology all the way back to 1998, you see that it's actually in the middle. It's not too expensive, but it's not the cheapest. It's average.
It's pretty good.
It's in line. And then I always say, okay, let's say orange juice now it's affordable at this moment. It's still not too expensive. How about orange juice to, let's say, Coke or maybe even apple juice? Right? If I compare technology to other sectors, as I compare orange juice to, let's say, apple juice, is orange juice a lot more expensive? And the answer is no, it's not. What my right chart shows is that yes, information technology or the tech sector might be comparatively more expensive by a little bit as compared to, let's say, other global markets, but it is far from being the most expensive. And it is still reasonable. In other words, the orange juice I want to buy is actually still affordable at this moment. No matter how good it is, parang sulit pa rin yung orange juice para sa akin at this moment.
So what you're saying, David, from what I read here, no, the PE ratios and stuff like that, even without the pandemic, it's a good investment opportunity. I mean, I think a lot of people tech now because of what we're going through, but even before that, it was already a good thing. It's already, I guess, it's just we're just moving faster now. But
yes.
It's really changing, no? So I think, guys, in the business world, it has changed. I mean, call centers and stuff like that are technology driven.
Yes, that's true. I mean,
okay.
Yeah. Even the way you order food now is in Grab Foods. That's also tech, Randall.
Now, it's a funny thing. They even know the tech now. It's not. Hindi mo na siya pwede himayin. It's all like it's a component of everything you do, whether it's e-commerce, whether it's food, whether it's anything. Involves some form of tech. Okay, some form of tech, which I guess now the mass adoption is happening faster than everybody thought about it.
That's true. I mean, you're right, and I think building on the mass adoption. Let me show you a third slide, man. This is about earnings, which pretty much means that given the tech sector, are they earning more or nahihirapan ba yung businesses nila? Because if you look at other businesses, right, they were like, the pandemic caused lockdowns. Lahat work from home. Lahat takot na bumili sa mall, bumili ng pagkain, restaurants, etc. So if no one is shopping the malls, then malls will have a more difficult time with their earnings. If no one is going to buy, let's say, if no one's gonna build or look for oil, or let's say the energy sector, then matatamaan yung earnings ng oil sector. But as you said, with tech, it's a completely different story, Randall. Kasi, as you said, because of this environment, as much as we don't like having COVID, but because of COVID, with everyone staying at home, now everyone is using technology. And everywhere, whether food, transportation, reading, even Netflix na yan. I mean, I used to go to the malls to watch movies. Now I watch Crash Landing on Netflix, and I love it. And Netflix is also part of tech. So what I want to show here is that even if times are hard right now for businesses, for tech companies, it's actually not just resilient earnings nila. In other words, solid earnings nila. But their earnings are actually growing.
Ones with growth in their Q1, Q2, or some.
Yeah, they're the only ones. Yeah. As in, subscription numbers of Netflix through the roof. Facebook advertisements through the roof.
Boom.
Everyone's online now.
It's not a corporate thing anymore. It's a consumer thing.
Exactly. And actually, it's also a corporate thing.
I mean, you have to get the paid one. You got like $140.
Yeah.
How many people bought shell out ng $140 for 1 year of Zoom? It's
but people do it, Randall. People do it. And I think this trend will only continue because, for example, me, before, I'd be scared to, do an interview online or meet online. But now that I'm used to it, I think I actually prefer it at times. Where I don't have to actually go out, dress up, shower, tapos baka ma-COVID pa ako. Now, I think I actually prefer to use Zoom. And I think, a lot of the consumer behaviors have changed. In other words, if before, I don't want to use my, let's say, BDO online banking to pay, I'd rather use cash. Now, since I'm sanay na ako sa mga BDO, BPI online banking, I'd rather do that instead of having to use, actual cash.
Yeah. I'll make amen, David. I only used GCash during the pandemic. I've never used them. I mean, I've had them, but never used them.
Yes.
But because of the pandemic, when people say, I only have GCash. So okay. So I had to learn how to activate these things. And it's nice, no? You say there are certain industries you never thought were gonna be challenged, like consumer staples, like in the Philippines. I mean, that was like a constantly growing industry, but no, it's not. But IT is. Okay.
Yeah.
IT is. All right. Okay, I think nawala yung slides mo or
sorry. Let me put it on back.
Yeah.
But I think, Randall, as much as tech is such a broad aspect,
yeah.
If I may, I'd like to take today to really discuss at least three main sectors of tech.
Except
And then
they all talk about Google, Amazon, and Microsoft.
yeah, well, they are tech, but again, tech is so much broader.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think if I can take some time, I'd like to, for everyone who's watching, so that they can understand when someone says tech, what exactly is tech? And then assuming someone understands tech, what is driving tech forward? Because, as you said, tech has run up, but do we think the run up is done? No, no, no. We think it's going to continue. And these long term drivers are just some examples of why tech has so much more room to run.
And it looks like we're just starting.
Yes, yes, we're just starting. And all these 8 industries, sub industries that I'll discuss later, is really just in the early stages. So let's start with the main sector, right? So there are 3 main. You have software and services, you have tech, hardware, and equipment, and then you have semiconductors and semiconductor equipment. So software and services are the ones that are the programs you use. So you can imagine parang mga Microsoft software or also yung mga it's called Intel software or even the Alphabet, or more common known as Google. These are the software and services. So the Alphabet or Google, the Facebook, these are high growth. In other words, these are household names, so people get excited, people buy, and when people buy, it rises so fast. But then also when people get scared and people sell, these stocks tend to also sell off a little bit more.
Yeah, they have high valuations and high PE.
Yes, very high. So in other words, if this is the orange juice, for software and services, usually the orange juice is on the compared to before, mas mahal yung orange juice.
Okay.
But then we still think that, Google, Alphabet, Facebook, I think as more people go ads online, solid pa rin yung earnings in Google, Alphabet. So understandable why it's expensive.
You think it's still gonna go grow? This
Yeah, for me.
Kumbaga the blue chip.
Oh yes. To answer you directly, yes.
Okay.
I think for a quick example, see Alphabet or Google. Right? A lot of people think right now na see Google is a search engine. And because if you Google something, as to quote, an ad pops up, that's how Google makes money. And yes, that is how they make money. But Google is actually also into cloud computing. And I'll discuss that later a little bit more. The second subsector is technology, hardware, and equipment. So imagine these are the laptops, the cell phones, the mga Apple, Samsung, right? And these are very familiar. These are more of the old tech we're used to, the tech that we see, we feel, we touch. The third one is semiconductors. So when I started also in finance, I was like, what exactly are semiconductors? But imagine in any tech that you have, in any computer, cell phone, Apple Watch, Samsung Watch, Fitbit, whatever, there's always the parts in those phones. And semiconductor is one of the most important part in that phone.
And the interest of the viewers, a lot of them are being done in the Philippines.
Yes, exactly. Semiconductors actually are being exported by the Philippines.
They're being export. I think when you say, kasi people, when you say export ng Pilipinas, they think about bananas, no? It's not.
Or dried mangoes.
It's this.
Yes.
That's why they're very affected by global demand more than anything.
Yes.
And just for the industry, anything that you have that uses some form of power, electricity, or whatever, will need semiconductors. Even your toaster, even your
yes.
One of these things have. I'm not a toaster, but any appliance, and I guess all appliances are smart. No?
Yeah, smart.
They use some form, and that's why it's important. Okay.
Yes, that's true. So again, the main 3, you have software or the applications, the programs you use. You have the tech hardware or the actual cell phones, laptops. And then you have semiconductors, which are the parts of the hardware.
Okay.
Go into anything. And so given that, and I actually want to build on what you said, all these smart gadgets. You have a smartphone, smart car, smart refrigerator. Imagine
even a smart mug, you know that?
Yeah, wow, it's amazing. That actually refers to the Internet of Things.
Yeah, okay.
So the Internet of Things is pretty much, imagine all the things, all the gadgets, they're all connected by the Internet and they can talk to each other. We think, smart mugs, maybe in the future there's going to be a, smart shower, smart light. Baka there's even a smart...
One of my hobbies is I do aquariums. No? So I do marine aquarium, and I had to put in a smart LED lamp, and it's in my garage. So my problem is, I was trying to connect it, and the guy about sabi niya, you have to connect it to your Wi-Fi. What? I just turn on the light? No, you need a Wi-Fi connection to control the light, to fix it, turn it on to everything. So I had to make sure I had to put boosters so that there's going to be like, we're talking about an aquarium light that you just flick on. Now it needs to be connected to Wi-Fi.
To the Wi-Fi. Wow. I think this is going to be a growing trend. Yeah. If they can do it for aquariums, they can do it for a bathroom.
and I was talking to the guy, sabi niya, bro, all the lights are like that now. You can't even buy the good lights that are not cannot be connected to the Wi-Fi.
Wow, that's amazing.
Crazy, right?
Amazing. And baka, if the light is too dark or something, it sends a text message to your phone
and stuff like that. So because of that, you don't need timers, you don't need those things. Parang it does some high tech stuff to control lighting and the on off, when to use the blue light and stuff like that. So,
wow, Randall, that's amazing.
You need a Wi-Fi for that. I was like, can I just plug it? And no, you can't. It's not gonna run.
Grabe. How exciting. Wow. I think I want to move on to electric vehicles now. So I think a lot of people talk about Tesla.
Yeah.
And Tesla right now is the most valuable company. It's worth more than Toyota, which is the longest time was the biggest car manufacturer in the world. And the reason behind this is because, electric vehicles, number one, doesn't use oil, which is environment friendly. But also, our electric vehicles, as the battery improves, in other words, they store energy, electric vehicles become cheaper. And because they get cheaper, more and more people start buying them. And we think that this will continue.
If you've been traveling around, you see that. I mean, and unfortunately, we don't see it in the Philippines. But I've never seen as much Tesla as I did when I went to Hong Kong. It's like they even have airport service.
Wow, really?
I had to use it because I wanted to ride the Tesla. And the US.
Was it different, or was it like riding on?
It's like you don't hear anything. It's kind of weird. Because you don't hear anything, you're just riding it, but it's amazing. But to be fair, that Tesla is a well-built car when you look at it.
Yes.
But BMW has their own.
Yes. Electronic line.
That's why you go to different places. I was in the States, like to attract people. So Walmart and all these things, Costco will have a way for you to plug your car. I mean,
wow, that's interesting. And I think sooner or later it will hit the Philippines, and it will reach us then. I think.
So we have to. I mean, if the government really wants to be serious about these things, they probably duty free and stuff like this. It's gonna hybrid lang.
Yeah.
So
yes.
Electric vehicles are, I guess. It's not even. I think it's more mainstream than we thought it was.
Yeah, I think so.
And, I think Europe, Japan, Hong Kong, US. It's really.
It's big. It's big. Yeah. And I think as people are a lot more environment conscious, because I was talking to some people and they were like, the difference between the older generation and our generation. I mean, us millennials and the younger ones is, we feel what's happening to our environment a lot more. Because I know that 20 years from now, when there's a lot more flooding, when the ice melts, when there's a lot more wildfires and global warming, I'll be living that life. And that's why I want to protect the environment a lot more. And a lot of the millennials are woke, as they say.
Yeah.
And that only increases demand for electric vehicles.
Yeah, in fact, I had a session with June Darubago, your head of equities.
Oh, yes.
That's something that they considered, even the blue chips and stuff. So moving forward, companies that have, I don't know what they call it, they use a term which I've been in the financial service industry for 30 plus years. We don't do that. But now, even the mainstream ones that you have, they look at these things. And especially now you're talking about tech. Very good. I guess more.
Okay. Then I move on to the third one. It's called cloud computing. So what's nice about cloud computing is, most people are familiar with, puno na yung phone memory ko, lagay ko sa cloud. So that's part of cloud computing. But I just found out also recently that, if you look at laptops, sometimes what makes them expensive is because they have this, super strong processor that allows you to compute something super fast. Ngayon, you don't need those hardwares anymore. What you can do is actually borrow from the cloud and use all the cloud's computing power. So in other words, kahit your processor isn't so strong, but you borrow from the cloud, you can compute whatever you have to in such a short time. That's what cloud computing is.
And all businesses have one way or the other use cloud.
Yeah, they're shifting. And what's interesting about that is as more and more people...
They've already shifted.
Past tense. Or maybe present tense. They're continuing to shift. Yeah, it's true. And as more people store in the cloud, where do they start? They actually start in big warehouse called data centers. And that's actually our fourth theme. So cloud computing and data centers go hand in hand. And as more people want cloud, more and more people will need data centers. And so given that, I always think, habang hindi pa siya sobrang laki, habang growing pa siya, that's the time you invest. Because that's the time where you get the most return.
And just to interest of the people, areas like Clark are future huge data centers for the world.
Yes. So, great plans. Interesting. Philippines will benefit then.
Yeah, good. AI.
AI. This one is super interesting that everyone talks about. Well, you hear a lot of big things such as algorithms or machine learning. But, to simplify it a little more, a chat box is already AI. And sometimes when I go on Facebook and then I chat Facebook, biglang may reply ka agad. I'm like, wow, sobrang attentive naman ng guy behind Facebook. Apparently, chat box pala siya.
Or scary when they show you stuff like look at the algorithm, that's AI. That's kind of scary. You think
that's true.
It pops out in your
Yeah, they know it before you say it. It's scary.
They track all your searches and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But that's AI. So
that's AI.
AI is something we've been using. We just didn't think it was AI.
Yes, that's true.
Oh, AI.
That's true.
That's true. When you're just thinking about something, it pops out.
Let's say I'm like buying something on Shopee. After buying, did you also want this? I'm like, what? How did you know I wanted that also? That's AI.
Scary.
Scary but exciting. Because imagine the possibilities you can do with that. And then let's move on to China. So we all know Silicon Valley and the US is number one in tech. And yes, they are. But humahabol si China. And as the Chinese government pushes for the tech infrastructure, in other words, to have the systems in place, China will be needing a lot of tech coming from different countries. And as that big trend continues to grow, you won't be part of that growth. So, bilhin mo yung company kung saan bibili si China para lahat ng mga earnings ng company na yun, makukuha mo rin. So, we want to take advantage of the China tech build-out then. Next one is...
It doesn't have to be in China. It can be somewhere else.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, and the next one, I think, is something a little more personal, gaming.
Yeah.
Nintendo Switch, Fortnite, Animal Crossing. Oh, these are all under gaming.
Yeah.
So this gaming,
don't just buy the game; you continue to pay.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for me, a Candy Crush alone, when I was in college, after I finished yung 5 lives, I wanna pay to get more lives because I can't wait. That's gaming.
It's easy now because you can use your phone and stuff.
Yes, and your mobile payment. The one you were talking earlier.
It's just there, your bill or the bill of your parents.
Yeah, that's true. Well, working na Randall. So,
hindi na pwede i-charge.
Hindi na.
Okay.
Although,
Gaming is a good thing. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess more people are using gaming.
Yes. Actually, Randall, how big gaming is now.
It's everywhere.
Yes. And interesting, for me, I got surprised. Fortnite, it's a very famous game, right? In 2019, there was this big world championship of Fortnite. The winner got $3 million.
Crazy.
That's more than the winner of Wimbledon, the big tennis comp. Imagine e-games is getting that big. And people, all the sponsors are willing to pay that much because they really see a lot of potential. As more and more people play online, whether it's in your consoles like Nintendo Switch, or whether at your phone, Candy Crush or whatever, gaming will continue to be a big part of people's life.
David?
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to be trouble.
Exactly. It's amazing.
Okay.
And the last one is biotechnology. To put it simply, it's more of they use living organisms. So in other words, like an organism, they merge it with technology, and then they use that to address, let's say, to treat the disease, let's say cancer. But biotechnology,
Maybe it's not a growing trend now.
oh, it is. It is. I think, a lot of people didn't know, but biotech started with, let's say, GMOs. Yung mga fruits, and then they moved into animals. But then now they realize that with the advancement of biotechnology, maybe they can cure a lot more diseases that wouldn't be cured by chemical medicines, but by having these live organisms. So, for example, let's say a vaccine, right? Bakuna. If they give you a vaccine, what they do is they actually give you a weak version of the virus.
Okay, yeah.
And then when you get the weak version, your body can beat it because it's weak, but your body also creates the antibodies or the antivirus organisms. And so creating a vaccine is actually using biotechnology. And especially, with COVID-19, with this disease, grabe, a lot of people are investing in biotech, and not just one company or two, hundreds of companies, because everyone's trying to find the cure to COVID. And a lot of people are using biotech for this.
How much the introduction of new viruses is at a much faster pace.
Yes, exactly. And that's why I think, biotech is only starting. I think moving forward, it's going to only get bigger and bigger.
We need to take care of our environment.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I think it starts from that.
Exactly. So I hope, Miranda, I was able to discuss not what exactly is tech, but what's pushing tech forward. And I think, if you ask yourself or someone asks you, is the era of tech over? No, it's only just beginning.
Yeah.
I think so much more.
We are barely scratching the surface.
Yes, exactly.
The way I look at it from your presentation, it's just tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, exactly. And these are just 8 among so many other themes,
But wow, good one, good slide.
Yeah, exactly.
Want to invest now?
Yeah, so great, actually, great idea. Because given all of this, the next question is really, so how do I invest into technology? Diba? I mean, what do I buy? Where do I focus on? How do I access all these global companies? Actually, the answer is really using the ATRAM Global Technology Feeder Fund. So, a quick disclaimer is ATRAM Global Tech is a feeder fund.
Okay.
So, what exactly is a feeder fund? It's a UITF.
Yeah, I want to explain it.
Yes, it's regulated by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, our central bank, BSP. And we create one fund that solely invests in a global fund.
Okay.
So a feeder fund invests 90% or more into just one target fund abroad.
Okay.
And the target fund we chose, which we found really, really nice, is the Fidelity Global Technology Fund.
One of the biggest ones.
One of the biggest ones. Billions. I think $7 billion.
Okay. So it's like a mutual fund invested in a mutual fund.
Something like that. Yeah. But we're a UITF.
You're a UITF. So you're a UITF investing in another pool fund. A pool fund
exactly.
Invested in another pool fund because, like, for me, I cannot go there. It's very difficult for me.
Yes.
I can use that the fund. Now, David, just curious, what would make it better for me to invest in a fund rather than me, buy Amazon, Google, and all this individual?
I think that's a great. Well, since I work in the multi-asset team, and we really believe in this thing called diversification.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, do not put all your eggs in one basket. Right? So the way we see it is that, yes, you can buy, let's say, Amazon, one stock. But at the end of the day, it's a bet on just one company.
Okay.
And what's good about that is, if that company performs amazing, you get all the gains. But if the company does really bad, you lose all the gains as well. Right? So how we approach this is using a diversified approach.
David want to tell people, because this is tech, the volatility is much wider.
Yes. It's high growth,
let's not talk
high
about
risk.
deviation and everything. But
Yeah.
basically, since it's a tech thing, you can see that it's more volatile. Okay.
Yes. And if you noticed earlier, what I showed was, right, you had the software, which are high volatility. You have hardware, which is less volatility. In other words, mas high risk, high reward. The other one is lower risk, but not as high reward as well. What we do is we merge that, right? So we mix the very high risk with the low risk so that your risk becomes managed, a lot more manageable, a lot more which is acceptable. At the same time, you don't get you pool funds. And you don't just get the low returns, you also get the high returns.
Okay.
So what we pretty much do is this fund invests in about 50 to 70 companies. And that in those 50 and 70, it's a mix of very high growth, but at the same time, high risk, at the same time, consistent growth, but lower risk. Okay. And by merging that, we actually provide a better risk-adjusted return. So that, when I go to sleep at night, I won't be scared about just one stock, right? I'll understand the tech sector is attractive as a whole. This ATRAM Global Technology Feeder Fund invests in Fidelity, which invests only in the best companies, but manages the risk.
Yeah.
Lowers the risk for investors that aren't as aggressive as you and
biases, no? So you can be just too biased, no? If you love Amazon or Google, you might be biased. At the end of the day, judgment, no, will play a big role. He did not do enough tech and fundamental analysis,
that's true.
Which it's not easy to do.
Yes, and even if you do all the analysis, sometimes the markets are irrational.
And that's what I tell a lot of people. When you're analyzing Philippine stocks, okay lang, konti lang yan. You have 30 stocks in the index. You don't even have to look at the whole 30 stocks. But when you look at something like a global one, US one, wow, how many stocks are there in just Nasdaq alone or MS? How many? I mean,
Nasdaq's about 100. S&P is like 500 stocks.
How do you
imagine all that?
Or have understand what's going on? Okay, so this is good. So the ATRAM fund is a feeder fund, tech fund that invests in, which is managed by Fidelity. So what you're saying is, it's like if I invest with you, it's like me buying a fund from Fidelity already.
Yes. Actually, it's interesting because the target fund was an innovation ATRAM made. Because if you're going to try to get the Fidelity Global Tech Fund directly with Fidelity, you're going to have to open an offshore account. You might have to either go to Singapore, maybe Hong Kong, and you have to have millions and millions of pesos, maybe even dollars.
Yeah. And and this is with the investing, the more you put this thing, the more people don't invest. It's called hurdles. The more hurdles you put, the
harder it is. So what ATRAM did...
And not everybody is a private banker, right?
So what ATRAM did is we created this feeder fund where we wrap it so that it's accessible in the Philippines. And in fact, you can access it through Seedbox. I mean, I'll show you the website later, but you can access online lang. And you can use pesos to buy all these global companies. In other words, you're using pesos to buy Apple when otherwise you need dollars. Right? And the size is just 1,000 pesos.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised.
Just 1,000,
Wow. Okay.
So what we did is we revolutionized the feeder fund industry. We created the feeder fund to provide access to every Filipino like me, you, even my sister, my brother, who can invest with just 1,000 pesos, which I think is, it really provides access to the normal Filipino, which is really what we want one day. Right?
So it kind of makes sense, no? You can use an auto debit arrangement, 1,000 or 2,000 every month for the next 10, 15 years. That's going to amount over time, no?
Exactly.
You can practice cost averaging using this stuff, and you're investing not your broad, but really tech stuff. And one thing I like about fund managed stuff like this, they're going to be ahead of seeing the changes more than us, because we're not there. We're not tech people. We're not tech people, so we wouldn't understand the trends in the tech unless it's done now. Okay.
Yes.
Good. Wow.
So if I can discuss the fund a little more and how the process is. So to put it in summary, what we aim to do is to give active management. In other words, there's really someone looking at the fund, doing fundamental analysis, top down, bottom up, and really understanding what company provides the most value. So we have active management with a rigorous investment process to really identify the winners of tomorrow, the next Apple, the next Amazon, the next Facebook. Because remember, yes, Facebook and Amazon is really worth a lot now, but they weren't worth that much.
Yeah.
They actually started a lot cheaper. And the goal isn't just to invest in Amazon, but it's to invest in the next Amazon. So you get it at a cheap price, and hopefully one day when you sell it at a higher at a higher price, at a higher profit. And we do that through three main S's. Quite simple. Just imagine Superman, three S's. Superior performance, which we've proven with a good track record. Small and mid-cap bias. In other words, we don't mind looking at the smaller companies, and then we search actively for the winners.
Small in the US is big here.
That's true. That's true.
Actually, mid here is conglomerate here.
Yeah. If you look at maybe SM in the US, I don't think it would be considered a mega cap. Mega caps are like Amazon worth how many billions, if not hundreds.
Nations.
Yeah. But actually, so let me start out with superior performance, right? The next slide. So what I want to show you is in 1 year, despite the major sell-off, we've made about 24% in just 1 year. And what's interesting to note is I want to highlight two things. One is the amazing performance of 24%, but the other one is, yes, there was the market drop that happened around late February, early March. I want to show how fast technology recovered.
They're back to where they are.
Exactly. At one point, higher pa nga than before the drop. And
that's not fair.
It's amazing. And it's interesting because if I want to compare it to other peso funds, in other words, other funds that people look at, and of course we don't want to name names, okay. So I named non-ATRAM funds, Fund A, Fund B, Fund C. But if you compare all the other 13 global funds that you can access with your pesos, ATRAM Global Tech is number one, beats the next one by about 6-7%. Wow. So my point here, if you have some excess pesos, even just 1,000 pesos, put it in the ATRAM Global Tech Fund, because even if there's very high risk markets, as you saw in the chart, when markets start to recover, ATRAM Global Tech really grabs all the recovery and just surges forward.
Well, look at that chart.
I know, beautiful. 24% in 1 year.
That's all. Okay, I sit in the board of some of their funds. We don't see something like this.
Yes. So, ATRAM Global Dividend Fund invests also strongly. Top 5, just down about negative 1.5%. It's important to highlight. If you look at the broad global market, it's actually down, if not mistaken, still down about negative 10%, if I'm not mistaken. And these show how our funds
more than that.
These funds are strong performance, but imagine Global Tech Fund 24%.
And because people are using this, people are still paying, people are still
yes,
or actually using more now. That can be also
so you can think of it as tech earnings. So in other words, yung mga kita nila is not just resilient. In other words, mas protected siya in the pandemic, but maybe because of the pandemic, yes, exactly. Baka earnings grew pa.
Right.
And imagine, in a time like this where most companies are having a hard time finding where there is growth, people look at tech talaga and they're willing to invest where growth is, which is in tech. So again, first S, superior performance. Let me move on to the second S. The second S is small and mid-cap bias. Okay. So, you're right, Randall. The small cap in, let's say, Europe is about 1 to 5 billion euros. So it's huge, right? But what I want to highlight is, if you look at the dark box, which is the index, and the light box, which is our fund actually doesn't mind going to the smaller companies, small and mid-cap exposure. And the question is why, right? Because we think, well, with the strong research of Fidelity, with our strong partnership with them, they get to really uncover the hidden gems. The next Apple and Amazon before they become Apple and Amazon. So I think if you get to get the right companies before before the big growth, your returns will be a lot more stellar than others.
It's just like local investing. No, you don't buy the You buy it before they become blue chip. And
exactly. You want to buy it when it's cheap.
Yeah.
Right?
But
And
it takes a lot of research. And I think people need to understand. Why we
yes.
buy, I was talking to a friend of mine, Randall, buying penny stocks. That's kind of too dangerous.
Yes,
To
yes.
understand what they're going into. So
That's
if I think a fund manager will research on these things more.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
ang joke ko nga, wala mga social life yan. Yun lang ginagawa nila.
Well, yeah, I can attest to that. No, I'm just kidding. But yes, that's true. And that's why we had to find the best partner. And we didn't just choose Fidelity because we liked Fidelity. We looked at BlackRock, Fidelity, JP Morgan, and they have wonderful funds. But for global tech, we like Fidelity.
So like there's just specialists for these things.
Yes. And I think it's interesting to note small and mid-cap companies become targets of M&A. So in other words, pwede sila bilhin ng mga mas malaking companies. And what's interesting about that is
the price.
Oh yes, the price. Because how M&As work, mergers and acquisitions. To keep it simple, you have a buyer and you have a seller. In other words, if big company wants to buy small company, big company will have to offer small company a good price. Diba? It's like if you're buying anything. If I want to buy something from you, Randall, diba? You have something I like, I won't buy it to you at market value. I'll probably offer you a higher price. Para you'll want to say yes to me.
Especially if they're doing something better than what they're doing.
Exactly, Randall. Like for example,
if they're too big, they're not as efficient.
Exactly. And usually when that happens, when the buyer offers the seller, they have to offer at a premium, more expensive. So in other words, the seller actually earns from selling their company at a premium. And my next slide actually shows an example. This is how we search for the winners of tomorrow, the next Amazon, the next Apple, Facebook, whatever. Right? Let's look at LinkedIn. LinkedIn is something I think a lot of folks are familiar with. It's like Facebook for the business world. If I want to connect with you, Randall, I'll add you on LinkedIn. I'll connect with you. But before LinkedIn was LinkedIn, it wasn't known yet. But the system was in place.
Yeah, before I'm just looking for a job.
Exactly. But then what Fidelity did is they've identified that LinkedIn has so much potential, good system, good management, strong growth potential, and possibly acquisition opportunities. In other words, someone's going to buy them. And
because they're disruptors.
Yes, because they changed the industry, exactly. And Fidelity held LinkedIn. And then after that, Microsoft bought LinkedIn. Imagine, they offered LinkedIn, they gave an acquisition of $26 billion. At that time, it was the third largest acquisition in history. And the price jumped before and after acquisition 47%.
Wow.
Where can you find returns like that in such a short time? And that happened in other companies as well, right? These are actual companies Fidelity has held, that ATRAM Global Tech has also held as its underlying investment. Red Hat, which was acquired by IBM. Imagine, IBM bought it for $34 billion. It's the largest tech acquisition in history. Right? Wow. Then you have Luxoft. Imagine, it was bought for $2 billion. The price jumped before and after 82%. So I think what I want to highlight here, Randall, is by really identifying the winners of tomorrow, you get a lot of potential growth and returns. And the ATRAM Global Tech Fund that feeds into the Fidelity Global Tech Fund has done this many times in different services, in different industries. Internet, cloud computing, software, semiconductors, etc.
That's why they're because of these things.
Exactly. And if you have, imagine just 1,000 pesos investing, you can be a part of all this growth.
Yeah.
You can be a part of all the profits you'll earn. Of course, again, we diversify, so we don't hold 100% in LinkedIn. But LinkedIn is a sizable part of the portfolio that when it earns that big, it provides returns.
Yeah.
And I think the next question people ask is, so exactly, I mean, it's all wonderful to have 47%, 82%, but how do you do it? What is the framework? And we use three lenses: growth, cyclical, and special situations. But to keep it quite simple, growth is pretty much who are the long-term winners? Who is doing well now that in the future will return so much more who company is small right now, but in the future will be so big. Who is a big company right now, but in the future will only be bigger. We look for the companies that have strong growth potential. And we also look at them by looking at themes. What are the drivers, as we discussed? And Internet of Things, cloud computing, e-commerce, electronic games, etc., etc. And that usually takes up more than half of the portfolio. The second one is cyclical. So if you look at markets, you understand that there is time where it's just beginning, there's a time where it's rising, there's a time where a market has reached its maximum, and then it goes down. So what we do is we look at companies that are in industries that are cyclical. We buy while it's still cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Buy while it is still growing. And then once we think that it has reached the peak, or what we call it's a mature market with not as much growth, then we sell. We take profits.
Right.
And what we do is we really have to understand through a strong, rigorous investment process, what are the subsectors, what drives the subsectors, and when has the subsector reached the highest point.
Okay.
And hopefully, and I think we've shown, as we've shown before, we've identified successfully buying at the low and selling near the high. And usually this takes about less than 30% of the portfolio.
Okay.
The last one is special situations. In other words, this is company specific. Right? So for example, if a company is mispriced, so for example, we think IBM before was not recognized by the market. We think there was a lot more value, a lot more growth. It was company specific, and so we bought it. Once markets realized like, oh, ang galing pala ng IBM, hindi natin na-notice yan. Bilhin ko nga.
Yeah, David, too cheap to ignore.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
What's happening to the investments now? It's too cheap to ignore.
Yes. But you have to understand that if it's too cheap, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be more expensive.
That's the beauty of fund management. They do this analysis and
yes, exactly.
It's not just price that you take a look at. No?
Yes, it's the active management.
That happened to IBM.
Yeah.
So IBM was like...
Yeah, actually IBM before was, the computer and like that. That was, it was beaten by Apple, but IBM rebranded. What they did is they went to cloud. They went to software.
A while for the investors.
Yes, exactly. But when they transformed, grabe, IBM's performance was very attractive, was very wonderful.
Okay.
And that was really done through a rigorous investment process to identify what's wrong with this company, what is wrong that the company doesn't get recognized by the market. And if there's actually nothing wrong, people were just ignoring it, bilhin mo na, kasi sooner or later, the market will also recognize it as well.
So, too cheap to ignore, very good quality.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
It's like today, if Ayala Land was too cheap, you're kind of crazy not to buy it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Or SMDC or SMPH. If it's 40% of its value, why would you not buy it?
Exactly.
Because we know that they do make money. We know that we know that this trend is going to happen. All right.
Exactly.
Very helpful. Right.
So those are pretty much the three. So we look at growth. Who are the long-term winners?
Okay.
Look at cyclical, right? You want to buy when it's growing parang. When it's nearing the top, we sell.
And then special.
And then we look at special situation.
And add, David, very important, because tech moves very, very fast. So you need a very, very fast research team to go through this.
Yes.
Because if you're going to wait, the things that happen in the tech sector can be just a few days, overnight, a few weeks. And you don't have enough time to react. So it's very important that there's a dedicated team to study these things, who have experience over these things. Not because you are a very good, let's say, index player or, you're very good in financial services, doesn't mean you're going to be good in tech, right?
That's true. Exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
Very good. So these are available to the ATRAM. What do you call your fund again?
ATRAM Global Technology Feeder Fund. Actually, I have a slide for that too. Oh, before I get to that, I just want to show here that there are many themes that we invest in. Right? And these are the top 10 names. So we have the Apple, Samsung, Google, Microsoft. We have the big names.
Why do you still put it there? Considering they're matured and everything.
We have to look for the long-term growth. So for example, I think one of the biggest examples is the Google Alphabet. Right? So it's huge right now, in terms of its search engine, its ad business. But if you really, which I didn't understand as well until Fidelity actually talked to me and explained to me the drivers driving Alphabet. Right? Even if they're mainly an ad business, they're expanding into global, what do you call it, cloud computing.
Okay.
They actually did. They wanted to build a cloud in China and other. I mean, China didn't work out so well for Google, but because they're expanding to cloud computing globally, they're building actually a whole different arm. Okay. And so even if
Google, the Google of the future is going to be different now.
Definitely, yes.
That's what you're buying now.
Yes,
you're
exactly.
Buying Google of the Google that you see now will not be the Google we will see
yes.
2 years from now. Okay.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Okay? That makes sense. But how about Apple and Samsung? Aren't they matured? Are we going to still see a lot of growth from them?
Well, if you look at Apple, right? Yes, I mean they do have, for example, they're one of the biggest companies by market cap, and they sell iPhones. Right? And the next question is, I mean, they haven't really released a new thing. Well, if you look at Apple, one, they have a very big cash reserve. They have a war chest. One of the biggest cash reserves.
More than many countries put together.
Yes, exactly. And imagine what they can do with that cash in a time like this, during COVID, right, where a lot of people are short of cash. The one with the most cash can be the one acquiring companies such as the M&As. They can be the ones investing in new technologies and systems.
You don't need to build something, you just acquire something.
Exactly. So Apple is
the war chest of Apple is like crazy.
Yes, and Apple's the customer base is very, very loyal.
Yeah.
If you look at all the Americans, even if it's so expensive, they're gonna buy an Apple, whether they're like a billionaire or just an everyday American. And not just American, the Europeans. I think in the Philippines we have a mix, right? We have a lot of we have some Samsung, Apple, etc. But the market base of Apple is very loyal. And they say if you release an Apple phone next year with slight difference in the specifications, people buy it because it's Apple.
You don't need to see innovation, you just need to see a new name, a new 11X or something.
Yeah. And because Apple is a quality company, so good loyal base, strong management.
I didn't see it that way. Okay?
Yes.
I didn't see that. Samsung, I'm just curious, Samsung.
Oh, Samsung. So, Samsung makes up, if not mistaken, a very, very big part of the Korean index. And Samsung is more than just electronics. They actually have financials. They have, they have investments. They have phones. And right now we're familiar with Samsung, the phones. But Samsung is actually expanding. They have a lot more offerings. Not just phones. They have TVs. And a lot of it is connected to Internet of Things. And as more and more...
David, are you still with Are we still showing our slides?
Oh, I have one summary slide for ATRAM Global.
Okay. So I think we got... all right, naputol yata tayo. It's okay. Sorry. Okay.
No worries.
Slide again.
Okay, so first for Samsung, right, we have the smartphone, we have also the TV, but we have refrigerators, a lot of appliances. Okay. And Samsung really benefits from the Internet of Things. Okay. As more and more people get connected, Samsung will benefit from that. But if you notice, for example, with Apple, yes, we do have Apple, but we're actually underweight index. So we have 5% in Apple, but the index actually 15%, because we think that although Apple is great, there are opportunities elsewhere. We want to diversify. So yeah.
And that's the reverse of Samsung. You overweight Samsung.
Yes. Because we think that the proposition of Samsung is also very attractive. Right? Okay. And Samsung is, the supply chain of Samsung is really strong. So
okay.
The next slide.
Just to make it for the interest of the viewers, that's the role of the fund manager. They overweight, they underweight, or they bring in something that's not even part of the index. So that's how you make money. That's how you beat the index. You either overweight it and underweight it, depending on the way you see things. Okay.
Yes. And I think I want to highlight also one last thing. When you're looking at funds, people always ask, passive or active? Mm-hmm. Right? Just follow an index, or do I have to buy an active fund? Well, I can tell you, especially for technology, where it's very broad, but at the same time very deep, you want someone who really focuses and specializes in each of the companies. And with tech, the tech sector can actually be split into two. you have information technology and communication services. IT are like the Apple, right? But communication services are like the Google, right? The Amazon. So if you only buy IT, Amazon is not, but more of like the SoftBank and the Google. If you only buy a passive ETF, in other words, passive investing, you just buy a tech ETF, you won't get exposure to Google, right? If you only buy a communication services ETF, you won't get exposure to Apple.
And you won't get exposure to the up and coming ones.
Oh, exactly. Okay. And remember, these indices are just the big ones. We invest also in small and mid cap.
Right.
So I think that's the value we really provide in the ATRAM Global Technology Feeder Fund. And getting to that, I just want to summarize what ATRAM is. So a lot of people go, okay, so how big is the fund? Well, the fund is actually over 900 million pesos. And if people ask, well, can I buy any day and sell another day? Yes. For some, it might take a longer time. For others, it take 5 days, 7 days, hours. Every day you can buy, every day you can sell.
Okay.
What's nice about this is the currency is just pesos. In other words, you can buy Apple, Facebook, Google with pesos. You don't have to buy dollars. And you only need 1,000 pesos to invest. That's the minimum. You can invest in many ways, but you can actually go through our website, www.seedbox.ph. And it's very easy. It's just an online website. You just sign up online. You don't even have to go you don't have to go to our office to physically show yourself and fill out papers and wait 2-3 hours, wait in line, etc. You just do it all online. And by just doing all of those, you get the best performing peso global fund year on year. As I show in the chart to the left, as of July 2, in 1 year, it made 24%.
And not only that, from the dip to where it's grown, it's like crazy.
Oh, you've made more. Yeah, exactly. And
So
again,
I'm happy today. Okay.
Yes. And then again, we are a feeder fund. So we feed into the Fidelity Global Tech Fund. And for people who might be worried, oh, I'm not too familiar with this, don't worry. We are regulated by the government. We are regulated by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas.
This is a trust, so it's a UITF.
Yes.
Available only through banks, but ATRAM is one of those few institutions that can actually sell trust. Okay.
Yes.
Very good.
So if you have any other questions, John, I'd love to be able to answer.
This is very helpful, David. No, I think this is I'm excited. I'm an old guy, but I love tech, and I believe this is the way. So for those of you considering tech, make this part of your diversification portfolio. No? I mean, I'm not going to say put all your money in tech. I mean, that's not going to be responsible on my part. But maybe this is going to be part of it. Example, you're creating a portfolio. You have an actively managed local Philippine index fund or something.
Yes.
Then your bonds, then you have your properties. This is something you can put. If you can only put 20%, 10% of your portfolio, that's good. If you are young, if you are a millennial, rather than, 2,000-3,000 pesos is probably what you spend on milk tea anyway. You put it and you see it's going to grow. You still have time. Time is going to be your advantage. And the way I look at these things, and I agree with how I understand things, we're barely starting scratching the surface. You have a 5-year, 6-year, 7-year, 8-year, or even a 10-year time horizon. I believe this is one of the ideal places for you to put your money. I'm not being paid by ATRAM to do this. Just to be clear, I am not endorsing. But the thing is, it kind of makes a lot of sense. And maybe when I talk to my kids, no? I mean, they can put some of their money here. And very important. I probably do too. So, I mean, that's very important. Okay, thank you, David. This is a wonderful, very helpful session that we have. They can go to ATRAM, the website. You're in Facebook, you're in Instagram. But if they want to go directly investing, they can go to seedbox.ph. It's funny, many years ago, they asked my opinion about Seedbox, and now it's a running thing. But you can go through your traditional brokers. They also, right? This can also be, this is a fund that they can do. So whatever field it's going to be used, you just look for. The name of this is the ATRAM Global Technology Feeder Fund.
Yes.
Kind of long one. Don't you have a shortcut for this?
We just call it GTech.
So David, parting words for how do you want to encourage especially younger people like you, millennials, why it's a right time to come in?
Sure, I'd love to. I think Randall brought up a really good idea that, yes, do not invest all your money into this, but this can definitely serve as a kicker. Right? And just a quick way of why I want to invest. I read a book before, and a lot of people think that I work super hard until I'm 65, save, earn, and then I'll retire. But in reality, you want to be an owner. You want to own an asset. In other words, get something that will work for you. And that's exactly the concept of investments. Right? You buy into investments, such as the ATRAM Global Feeder Fund, Tech Feeder Fund, and the returns you get as your way of having a side income.
Yeah.
So don't just save, invest as well. Right? And the ATRAM Global Tech Feeder Fund can be a good kicker. I think too, I'm a millennial, I'm still starting out, so I'm not making so much. But comparing it to other feeder funds, comparing it to other tech funds, this one just needs 1,000 pesos. Very attainable. And this one can be done online. So why not just go to seedbox.ph and check it out?
Yeah.
And I guess third, you have to understand that we're not trading, we're investing. But we are investing in the future. Because tech enters every part of every industry and even of our lives. And so instead of just watching tech and being left behind, why not be a part of all that growth?
Wow.
If that helps, Randall.
And just to add long, guys, younger ones, instead of just spending your money, invest it.
Yes. Instead of milk tea,
wala naman travel ngayon, walang peso fare. The budget that you have, you're supposed to go to Japan this year, that's been scrapped. Money here. I'm not talking about all of it. Maybe a portion of it, or just your hotel, your hotel cost man lang, or you take it here and just wait and just be patient with it. Money not invested is money spent. So be careful, and you now have opportunity. This is something that young people can take a look, and even older guys like me. It's such a pleasure talking to you, David. I normally talk to your bosses who are much older. Sorry, June. Sorry, Philip. It's refreshing to interview younger guys now from the same company. And just like I said, just, prepare for the future. And this is one of the ways to build your future. Thank you very much, David. And if you subscribe to this channel, guys, please do click subscribe or click that bell button, whatever that is. It gives you notification. I'm coming up with more videos for you, and I promise all my videos are going to be helpful. No videos of me eating the hamburger and stuff like that. It's all about these things. Some people say it's nosebleed, but it's helpful. With that, thank you very much. Thank you, David.
Stay safe, guys. Bye.